This is Stephanie with Hightower Stitching. With today's video, it's got hand stitching and applique, and we are going to make some beautiful quilt top tulips. I decided it was time to work on a new project, and so I looked through some of my magazines, and one of the newest ones that I saw had something I'd really like to work on right now. It's just doing some simple hand work. And I like applique a little bit, but I don't like sometimes the way it turns out, the way it looks. And when I found this pattern, it was in this month's Love of Quilting, May-June 2021. I found some a great pattern for making a tulip for the top of a quilt, on a quilt top. And if you can get your hands on this book, it's really neat. And first thing I did was I made my templates, and this part only takes 2 templates. I took and made a photocopy, and then I mounted it on 2 layers of file folder, stapled it together, and then the other thing I did was I pulled out that 1/8 inch hole punch, and you can see that at each one of the points where they come together, I have taken and made a little hole where they come together, and that's going to be important as we get ready to start on this project. But before I got ready to do a full-blown project and finding a whole bunch of material to get started, I'll tell you, I always do a sample to see if I like it. And here's the purple one that I started with. And the nice thing about this pattern is you put your colors pieces on the outside that have your pattern, and then you put a solid in the center, and you can see again the 3 pieces. Well, what I loved about this, and why I'm really doing the video, is it has such nice lines that go around there that it is actually just fun to do this applique on this pattern instead of doing something very small. And you can see when you turn it over that I've put the pieces together, and then I went around and then I did the stitching. And because of the way it is, there wasn't even any clipping. And then when I got to the corner, once I got it fixed, then I would take and maybe cut off a little tag that was sticking out. So this was the sample I did, and I really liked it. So now we're back to the one that I'm going to work on now for you. And what I've gotten is I have a petal, and I've got the center. And those little dots, and I've made mine with a dark markers so you can see them. They are really going to be nice to get this to go together well. And I even do it on the other part. And the nice thing about it is, if your cutting's off a little bit, when you put those dots in place, then you're going to have a nice line, and you're going to actually get the shape that you want for that. But always be neat about your cutting, as neat as you can be. All right, and for example on this one, and I'm not really going to have to look at the back right now because I know that I've got this one. And I took and I made a mechanical pencil line, because there's a nice run here that I want to do. And for you, I'm using the black thread. You wouldn't want to use a black thread. I'm using 2 strands, depending on how strong your thread is. I say that every time. You can do 1 or 2, and 1 will do. And I'm going to take and start. And I've got a nice knot, so I'm not going to have to go back on that one. But again, I'm going to go down in, and I'm going to come up, and I'm going to go down in, and I'm going to come up. And depending on how long your needle is and how much practice you have, then take and pull it, and then always look at the back and make sure that you have caught the back. And these are not so neat because I tell you I'm doing it through the camera. When I'm sitting there with it in my hands and on my lap, it's a lot easier. And so I'm going to go in again, and I'm going to I can get 2, 3, 4 stitches depending on how strong the needle is. And I'm going to go through, and I'm going to pull it through. And I have a pretty good idea that I've caught both edges. And so what I want to do is I'm going to do that long run from where I am all the way over to that last dot. And when I get there, I'm going to come up and I'm going to run my thread through there back and forth about once or twice so that it locks in place. Once I get this side done, then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to take the second piece, and I've got it marked already, and I've even got my line drawn. And this time I'm just going to start up here at the right hand dot. So I get it lined up, and we'll pin it so it'll stay, maybe 2 pins, excuse me, and then run it from that dot, from this dot, all the way down to the end dot. And then there again, stitch back twice, and then cut it. Once I get those stitched, then I take it to the ironing board and I open up the seam. I like the seam open because I don't know if I'm going to hand stitch this at the end or do it on the sewing machine. So I go ahead and just open it up. And then I'm ready to do the next part. And I'm going to be looking at the back. And this time I'm going to be thinking 1/4 of an inch or a nice consistent edge around. And I liked on this one, I came over here to this nice piece right in here as a place to start. And so what I want to do is I want to fold it up. And if you're not sure where 1/4 is when you're first starting, you can pull your ruler out and you can lay it on there and say that's about 1/4, and that's nice. And the thing here is to be consistent around as much as you can. Now, I'm going to do a running stitch. I'm going to use black thread so it'll show up. And even when you're doing yours, you may want to use a dark colored thread because we're going to take this thread out when we get to part 2 and actually put it down on the top. So I'm going to start. I'm going to go down and I'm going to do a longer running stitch of what I've got folded. And then as I go, just like we did in the yo-yos, as I move along, I'll get better and better at this. And then straighten it out and then fold under. And all of a sudden you'll say, if you've made yo-yos or many of those yo-yos, you'll say, oh, this is just like that. That is such a nice edge. And it rolls for you. And then pull it up. And we're going to go all the way down. And see, this is even going into a curve. But this pattern has got such a nice, it's big. That makes one of the differences. It's not tight. It's just a very sweet tulip. And then it goes on around. And then when you get to the blue, if you can see where I'm going there, I hope. Then straighten it back out again. And if you turn it over, look how neat that looks. And that's what I was saying about this one. It is fun. And then taking a fold the blue under. And you're going to take and do your running stitch through there. And remember that running stitch is going to come out when we get to the right place. And then go on around. And I'm going to quickly scoot on around. See, I was able to get several on there. That's what I mean. This is like my, this would be my 5th one that I had done. And then I straighten that all out. Because I want to get up here to this corner. But see, there's a nice curve right here again. So you're just going to keep doing that. You're going to fold it under. And you're going to run those stitches. And don't get them very close to the edge, because when you get ready to do your top stitching, you're not going to have one of those to run into each other. That was a good thought. Because I just automatically didn't do it because I knew that's what I was going to do. Now I'm coming up to this corner, And this one, I'm just going to lay it down, and I'm going to get close to it. And then I want to turn the corner. And on this one, what I tended to do was fold it in a little bit so that I had that little point. And then I folded the top down. And look what happens. I've got this really nice point right there. And I'm actually, for right now, I'm going to do that with a double stitch because I don't want that pretty corner to come out till I'm finished. So I'm just going to go up and down. And then you're ready to keep going again. And you can start and go make those nice running stitches away from the edge. And you're just going to keep going because the rest is an easy part too. Because I'm going to get down here to the blue. I've got my edge folded under. And I didn't have to change threads, so I'm just going to take and fold the blue one down. And I'm going to cross over, get the blue, and I'm ready to go again. And I'm going to go all the way up there to the corner. And when I'm almost to the corner, I'm going to do like I did on the other place. I'm going to simply fold this down, line it up a little bit, and then go ahead and do my long running stitches up through there and travel back down. And that's what's going to happen. Now when I go to the other side, it's not going to be very much different. I'm going to go down, I'm going to take and I'm folding it, and I'm going to travel up to the top again. And then I'm going to think about, well, which way do I want that little tail to go? And in this case, I probably am going to fold it back a little bit and then do my fold for my seam. And there I have a nice little corner. I'm going to double that and then work my way down to the end. And this is the first block of the new quilt top. This piece is a 19.5-inch cream colored background. And then I've got 4 flowers, and then there's the green that goes in between, and I'll talk about that in part 2. And you can see that these have been appliqued down by hand, and you can do it by machine. It'll be very easy with this particular tulip pattern. And just a reminder that if you like this tulip, you can find the template in the Love of Quilting, May-June 2021. And there are 16 of these blocks in the quilt. Now you can make it any size you'd like to. And I was going to make it a multicolored, like each block a different flower and center. But I just found this piece of blue and the blue that went with it, and I just like it. So I think all 16 of mine are going to be the same color. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. If I've forgotten anything or some reminders, I'll put those in the description. If you enjoyed this video, found something that you might like to do or something that you learned, please subscribe and hit like. Thank you.